Welcome to part 2 of my video series on this amazing chess book, Simple Chess by Michael Stean. I rate this book as one of the greatest chess books ever written for the intermediate, the everyday amateur player, certainly in terms of strategy. So even if you've read this book before, even if you've read it multiple times, you can still get so much from this book. So what I'm doing in this series, I'm picking out something for every chapter and I'm just giving my take on it as an amateur chess player, writer and enthusiast. So thanks for watching along. If you've not seen part 1, then you can do so there. Got it right this time. And what I'm going to do, don't skip over the intro because it's really important. What I'm going to do in this video series is recap the previous material. So if you've not seen the previous video, you can watch it like I just said. If you have, fantastic, thank you. And let's crack on with the review. It's really important to review. I always do that when I'm reading chess books, always try to do that anyway. If I've read a chapter, before I start with the new material, I'll try and do a quick review because human brains are pretty crap and you just lose 90% of the material if you don't review, and therefore it was kind of a waste of time in reading the chapter if you're not going to review. So 3 questions from the previous video. Question 1, what is the most important square in this position? Question number 2, in that game, Botvinnik played what type of strategy in order to win? And question number 3, Black plays this move, what should White play next? And why? Feel free to write your answers in the comments if you want to. Alright, moving on to the next part, Outposts. As the name suggests, an outpost is a square at the forefront of your position which you can readily support and from where you can control or contest squares in the heart of the enemy camp. To be useful, an outpost must be firmly under control and so should ideally be protected by a pawn. Conversely, your opponent should not be given the opportunity to deny you access to your outpost, so in particular it must be immune to attack by enemy pawns. This last condition is far and away the most important and can indeed almost be taken as a defining property of an outpost. If you have the book, I'm looking at the position on page 25, which I think this game fragment, I'm going to take it from this particular position, is absolutely fantastic in exploring, outposts. And there's some moves in here which I just think amateur players, intermediate players like ourselves would just jump onto and make, horrific mistakes, which is why it's worth reading and reading and reading this amazing book. So let's look at this position in more detail. So we can see that White has got an outpost on f5 and Black has got an outpost on f4, and it's this move next which I think is really subtle and very, very nice indeed. So White in this position plays the queen to c2, which I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a lot of players below the, 1800 level maybe, would do the move here which Black does and take off the knight. And this is a bad mistake from Black's point of view because what it does, and as Michael Stean mentions, Black needs this dark squared bishop in order to contest this f5 square and voluntarily gives this up, probably thinking, wait, I've doubled the pawns and open up the king position, but this structure is obviously really safe for White, just to castle queenside, which is what they do next, or even just leave it in the centre. So from this position, now not only has White got a more or less uncontested f5 square, there's still the knights to deal with, but there are no pawns to try and kick a knight on f5. White has also got this h-file, so a double whammy move, and it was made possible by this little subtle move here, just saying, okay, then go and take the knight if you want to. Just allowing Black to make this mistake by just taking this knight. Just allowing Black to make that mistake, Presenting your opponent with the opportunity to make mistakes is what one of my first chess coaches said, and it's good advice. So queen, side, castles, and from this position then we have, rook e8, what else, just developing for Black. And this is another very nice move. Right, I mean, the knight on f4 could be taken by the bishop, but by employing the bishop to h3, White just immediately targets the f5 square, and Black cannot allow that. A bishop on f5, and then the idea is we just double up rooks, Right, and bring the queen into the game at some point. With the bishop on f5, it's just going to spell disaster for black. So black's got to give up the knight for that bishop, and then white just gets the rook on the h file on h3. And it's very easy plan for white. It's just to try and get this knight onto f5 and double up pieces on the h file and get the queen on the h file at some point if they can. And they're just going to be in a massive attacking position. And they haven't really done anything. They just offered black the opportunity to make a mistake. But a bishop h3 was quite nice. Let's have a look how white manages to do that. If you've not got the book, you might be thinking about how to get this knight on f5 and just dominate the board. And this is over pretty quick, it's got to be said. Let's have a look. Knight moves. Double up rooks, makes sense. Knight, another knight trying to get an f4. So yeah, obviously the knight now can just drop into this natural position. Drop to e3 and just go to f5, very simple. And let's just have a look at how white finish this game. So you might be thinking, you're probably not, but you might be. So why this move? Why queen d1? Queen d1. We've got to try and get the queen on the h file. So this move's coming next. Right, get the queen into the game. It's just going to be all over for black. So why didn't question black just play the knight into f4 to stop f4? Why? Well, I mean, take your pick really. After knight f4, black could just chop that off, and then black is just gonna just pile up pieces on this, and it's just all over. It's just ridiculous. And this knight is just far too powerful. So in the game, trying to get some space for the king, and then now we get the move f4, getting the queen to the h file. And I think at this point, actually, black resigned, I think, at this point. But it's worth looking at why, and it's worth looking at the moves, I think. So this move, for example, obviously we take the bishop, and in this position, we can just take off the rook, check, win the queen, but we don't have to give up this rook, because we can do this as well. And then just win the queen. And it's all made possible because of this amazing knight on f5. I'm just going to look at one more position on Outpost from this magnificent book, and it's this one. And there's a tactical firework coming up from this position. So okay, you've got a superior position. We've got a knight on c6. You still have to do the tactical stuff. You still have to study the tactics and the strategy and combine them together. And white does a magnificent job in this position, getting the knight onto c6 in the first place, but then unleashing a tactical firework here. And the move in coming up in this position is e5. And when I first looked at this, I actually just recently looked at this again, I thought, what? Why e5? Ooh, e5, what's the point in e5? Because is that not just blocking the bishop in? Would it not be better to try and get, mate threats against the enemy king? But this bishop's doing a good job of defending g7, I suppose. But what this does is set up tactical fireworks, because this knight is always threatening to come in here, winning the queen. And let's have a look at how this game ended up. So the rook drops back, and then the rook comes here, and it's basically over already. Right? I mean, the threat is just simply bringing the rook to the 7th rank, and then we're on this square as well. It is crackers, really. And then there's no defense to that, and it's just game over. But in the position, could black have done anything better than rook c8? So look at the variations, look at the possibilities. Knight c7, and then look at this move coming up. Rook d7, sacrificing the rook because of this move winning the queen. Another alternative, instead of knight c7, knight a4, going after the bishop maybe. In this case, we just have knight e7 check. Alright, the queen takes, but then we pick up the rook anyway. Okay, so thanks for watching, and the next section is on weak pawns. Goodbye.